The purpose of this video is to discuss Bill C-21, which is before our federal House of Commons here in Canada. Amongst other things and changes to the Firearms Act, the bill proposes to make BB, airsoft, and pellet replica handguns and rifles that look like real guns prohibited devices. The reason why I have these is I like the history of firearms, and not wanting real handguns in the house, I can still get the feel of. Now, these are fairly harmless. They shoot between 380 and 400 feet per second. Little steel BBs, like your Daisy BB gun BBs. If you shot somebody with one of these, it would sting badly and they'd get really, really angry with you. These will become, if the bill succeeds, prohibited devices, and buying and selling one will be a criminal offense. However, those of us that already have them, there is no buyback program for these, so they would be grandfathered. But I wouldn't be able to sell it to anybody. Here's your classic Daisy BB gun. It doesn't quite look like a real firearm. It's not an exact replica, so this won't be affected by the prohibition. But you know, airsoft players and people like me that like historic arms, they're not interested in this. You're not going to go play airsoft games with the Daisy. It doesn't give you that historic or real world sense. If you don't have airsoft, well, then I guess all the kids are going to go back into playing video games in the basement, where they can play something like the airsoft, but online. Here's the material truth. My Daisy BB gun on the bottom and my model of the 1911 Colt on the top, they're both BB guns. They both shoot with the same amount of power. They both can do the same amount of damage, which is not very much. So the country is contemplating banning this only because of what it looks like. I don't have a cultural memory of hearing a lot about BB guns being used in the commission of crime. If I was a young buck and I wanted to go rob something, I'm not going to use this. I paid good money for this. So I'm going to go get something that's cheaper and looks real. Or I'm going to use a knife or a fake bomb or one of the many, many real handguns you can get on the street that are illegally imported from the United States. Well, I spoke to somebody who is retired after 35 years in the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and he said he'd rather somebody be cornered with a BB gun than a knife, because you can kill someone with a knife. And besides, I can 3D print this and paint it, and it would look just as realistic. Also, I've been to big box stores like Walmart, and I've seen toy cap guns that look very, very realistic, but they're not going to be prohibited. Here in Canada, like in many, many countries around the world, there's a thriving industry in replica air guns. There are businesses across this country, places where I get these, where it's their sole business, and they have staff, and they've built a business, a family business in a lot of cases, to provide, airsoft players and reenactors and people like me that like the historical firearms for history purposes. They've created their businesses that are now going to go out of business. Also, there's numerous clubs of airsoft enthusiasts across the country. A lot of people in those clubs, of course, are families that like to go out and play together, play airsoft games together. They're not interested in having real war firearms. That's why they have the airsoft ones. It's good exercise. They're out and about. They're being healthy. It's so silly to me that we're going to harm that industry. And no, the airsoft players don't want something that looks like a Daisy BB gun. If they're worried about the cachet of these things and attracting young people to sidearms, well, then really they're going to have to ban the internet and ban, cop shows until after midnight. In the United Kingdom, you cannot buy a handgun, like a real one. But you can buy these. And the United Kingdom's not alone. There are plenty of other Western countries where you cannot have a handgun, or there are extremely, extremely restricted rules about having a handgun, but you can still buy these. So I fail to understand why we're banning these along with real handguns. If you want to get a sense of what my hobby means to me and my historic interests, which is the primary driving factor, have a look at the previous video I posted. If you're a Canadian, please share this video with your Member of Parliament. You can do that by sharing this video by email.